Well, it's getting to the point where I'm truly having a hard time keeping up with the Stadia news myself, as once again Google decides to light up my eyes and fire up the loins as a Stadia Connect has just been announced. Not only that, but we have more news all around with 2 new games coming to Stadia, some updates on Stadia's numbers, and well, there is some good and bad news on that front. But with all that said, let's jump into the video. Before we get started, if you can smash that like button, I'd appreciate it. Sub to the channel for more Stadia news and gaming coverage. But on the official Stadia Twitter handle, out of nowhere, it was announced that a Stadia Connect will be happening on April 28th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, in which, by the way, I will be live streaming on this channel, so keep a lookout for that. But this is going to be the second official Stadia Connect we've ever had. Now, if you're unaware of what a Stadia Connect is, it's a hype-gathering live stream in which we get new games announced, and in the case of Stadia, maybe even more features being rolled out, as well as maybe some Stadia updates on what they might be planning. It's a way to really bring a lot of eyeballs to the service and really give a showcasing of what to expect going forward. Now, this has been a long time coming, mostly because of the lack of games on this platform. After this Tuesday when Monopoly drops on Stadia, we have absolutely no games until early June. And even after that, it's really bare. So my predictions for this Stadia Connect are a few things, starting with at least some more announcements of games coming out in the next 6 weeks. Whether that is older titles being ported over or even brand new indie games, I expect to see a wide lineup of a decent amount of games in general. Not only that, I reported that the Stadia team themselves has told us 120 games are coming to Stadia in 2020, and we still have over 100 of those games still yet to come. So expect an announcement of hopefully a decent chunk on that list. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments what you guys think will be announced on this Stadia Connect. As for my specific predictions and guesses, I'm guessing the indie title Get Pack releases on Tuesday or is announced as one of the May Pro games. And possibly we hear from games that EA are planning to launch on Stadia, as they are featured on the list of publishers who are supporting this service. And while looking at this list, we can make a ton of guesses from here. Maybe 2K drops something like Civilization 6, Square Enix with the Final Fantasy VII Remake, or some older titles like Skyrim or GTA 5. And what about free-to-play titles like Fortnite or Apex Legends, or a possible release date for Elder Scrolls Online? And the biggest one I'm going to keep an eye out for is a possible teaser of the brand new game Google is working on to kick off the true cloud exclusive for Stadia. Now, I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but I think it's safe to say we are all hoping for some amazing titles to come to Stadia, and I hope you guys let me know down below what you hope to see. But moving on to our next piece of news is a couple of reports on Stadia's numbers since it has launched. Now, Google doesn't release information of any kind about the population or users of people who use Stadia. This extends even to developers, as a few have mentioned they don't get those raw numbers. So we have a few metrics that are highly inaccurate or don't represent much, but gives us some form of an insight, even if it's just in a small scope. Now, I had reported about a month or so ago that the Stadia app via the Google Play Store has reached 500,000 downloads. Fast forward now to the release, and Stadia has just hit the 1 million mark, according to the analytics from firm Sensor Tower. And the numbers are across the Google Play Store and the Apple Store the week that Stadia launched, seeing 225,000 installs globally. So a massive jump in the users who have downloaded Stadia and have gotten to try it out. Then we have the Destiny 2 numbers, where I recently reported the high was around 36,000 on April 9th, which is an increase of almost 400% since before Stadia launched weeks ago. But how have the numbers been since then? According to 9 to 5 Google, this chart made from the numbers pulled from the Charlemagne website show that the population has started to level off a bit more, as it's gotten down to 17,000 and hasn't gone below that since. Now, this isn't a perfect metric by any means, but it does give us some insight on how the platform is performing and how seeing these numbers steady and being 3 times bigger than when before Stadia launched is encouraging to me. Now, the numbers dropping don't mean much, at least not right now, as we saw a similar spike back in November when Stadia first launched and it dipped once again. People hop on Destiny, they try the game for the first time, they either enjoy it or they don't. I personally have never been able to get into the game myself, as it can be difficult for newer players to figure out what to do. But overall, with 9 free pro games, constant grid lobbies, even serious SAM lobbies, there is a lot of options to dive into with the pro games. But either way, it's good to see that there is an online presence in games that were low populated before. Now, none of these are any sort of reliable metrics to track the numbers, but it's all we have, and it's good to see either way. But moving on to 2 brand new games that were recently announced for Stadia, starting with Lara Croft and the Temple of Osiris, another Tomb Raider game making its way onto Stadia, but this one with a whole different flavor. This is the sequel to the Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, and it brings a top-down isometric view. The gameplay is fast and fun, and has that Diablo-style feel to it, only with Lara Croft twist of traps and puzzles. The game also features offline and online co-op modes with 1 to 4 players, also different game modes like classic arcade action, where you can play cooperatively, or even competitive co-op mode, where you can compete with your friends to earn bigger rewards, treasures, and powerful artifacts to boost your character. You can either work together or sacrifice your buddies for a higher score. Unfortunately, no release date was given, but I am looking forward, as the top-down twin-stick games are definitely my jam. Now, the second game on the list is Kona, a game set in Canada in the early 1970s, in which you play Carl Faubert, an expert private detective set to investigate a series of accidents in the town of Antepique. What ends up being looking like an ordinary case turns into a supernatural mystery. The game is essentially a walking simulator in which you'll explore an open world while trying to solve the case. The game is very well revered with many positive user reviews. It also features a very well handcrafted world with lots of details in every environment. It also features a great atmospheric soundtrack and an adventure that is really gonna surprise some folks, as you'll be uncovering a lot of secrets. I'm personally excited for this one, as I can see me streaming it or doing a Let's Play with this in the future. With all that said though, let me know in the comments your future predictions for the Stadia Connect, or what you want to see launched on Stadia going forward. Let me know if any of these games have your interest, and if you could do me a huge favor and hit that like button, as it would be much appreciated. Sub to the channel for more Stadia coverage and news. I'm Sunny, and I'll see you guys in the cloud.